How do? Welcome back. Well, I'm just having a beer. Well, I wasn't able to video the brew day on Sunday when I was making the sparkling ale, but it did go really well, no problems at all, and it's fermenting away lovely now with that verdant IPA. And just having a taste from the hydrometer tube, I think it's going to be a cracking beer. I'm really looking forward to this one. It seems to be ripping through the wort, and hopefully I think I should be able to bottle on Sunday or Monday, so I'm looking forward to that. As you can see though from the title, today I'm going to be talking a little bit about dry malt extract versus liquid malt extract when we're extract brewing, which is the style I do, because it's more convenient for me than all grain. And I've always thought that dry malt extract was better than liquid malt extract, but it was just from experience. However, I've been reading a book now called Designing Great Beers, because of course I'm creating my own recipes, and this book seems to agree with me, but it gives the science behind it. So this book, I mean, it's getting a bit on now, it's about 30 years old. This is the 2020 edition, but the first edition was 1996. So you've got to accept that, you know, some things will change in the industry and the manufacturing of malt extracts in those 30 years. But I think what he has to say about extract in the book, well, it sort of marries with my experience of it. Let me just give you a few examples from the book. It's a very well researched book, can I say. I mean, at the back there is just page after page of references to scientific literature and studies that have been done on brewing, and it's a very well researched book. It talks about malts, well, it talks about everything: malts, hops, fermentation times, everything like this, and there's lots and lots of maths in it. In fact, some pages, if I can show you, there's lots of charts, and there's pages and pages of maths. This is about calculating all your IBUs. So it's a very interesting, in-depth book. In the malt section, he talks a lot about grain, because it's not just about extract brewing, but there is a chapter devoted to extracts, which of course is most interesting to me as an extract brewer. And he quotes from a study at the University of, I'll have to get this right, Saskatchewan, which is either in America or Canada, somewhere like that. And basically in 1990, don't forget it's a 30-year-old book, in 1990 they did a study of 44 light lager malt extracts, and we're talking about syrup here, so liquid malt extracts. And they compared them to a wort that was produced at the Molson brewery. And they did a lot of chemical analysis and carbohydrate content using high performance liquid chromatography and all of this sort of stuff. And I thought it was interesting that one of their findings was that the colour of the wort made from extract was substantially darker than the colour of wort from the commercial brewery. Although the extracts were called light lager, the authors considered the colour too dark for the lager style. And this is something I've noticed with extracts. Now, he does say that both liquid and dry malt extracts do darken during the production process, because they're made through dehydration. You're taking liquid out of a wort, and that involves heat, and that heat does have a darkening effect. However, what he noticed is that, and again it's through research that he references at the back of the book, so it's not just his opinion, and I didn't know this, but liquid malt extract darkens in storage. So once it's been packaged into the tin, it's still darkening through the browning reaction. And what's interesting, he says here that colour reactions continue, albeit at a much slower rate once the syrup is packaged. Water is required for the browning reactions, and recent literature indicates, and he references that at the back, that liquid malt extract contains the optimal amount of water for these reactions to occur. It says, as a result, liquid extract that spends a long time in storage, whether it be at the distributor's warehouse or the retailer's shelf or in the brewer's cabinet, and we all have a tin of liquid extract somewhere, don't we, just as a fail-safe, where is it now, or in the brewer's cabinet, will have darkened considerably. To keep this to a minimum, buy popular products from successful retailers. So in other words, he's saying, get the freshest wort or the freshest syrup you possibly can. And one of my beefs is that the manufacturers, whether it be Muntons, Coopers, whoever, they never put the date of manufacture on. They'll put a best before date, but they won't tell you when it was actually made. And really, I think they should do, because of this browning reaction. And when you're buying online, as many of us do now, we don't know how long that extract has been sat in the shelf. Most warehouses use stock rotation, so it's had to come from the back of the shelf and move to the front. We don't know how long that's taken. We don't know how long it was in the wholesaler's warehouse before it went to the retailer. So it's very hard for us to actually know how old that syrup is. And syrup has the problem of darkening, as he says, in some instances considerably from what we would expect. Interestingly, he says though that though all worts darken during boiling, and this includes dry as well, personal experience indicates that those made from extract seem to darken more quickly. Thus, it may be worthwhile to limit the boil times. And so, yeah, I didn't know this beforehand, but I think I was right in saying 30-minute boils are fine. And I'll put a link below in the bucket to David Heath's video where he talks about modern brewing times and how we really, even with all grain mashes, we don't need to be boiling for 60 and 90 minutes anymore. 30 minutes, 45 minutes is perfectly fine. So really, the takeaway from this is, where possible, try and use dry malt extract, because you get a more predictable outcome than when you use liquid malt extracts. There is a few other nuggets here, but I seem to have lost them. I was going to tell you, but yeah. So that's it. That's his sort of like takeaway. And to be honest, this is something I've noticed. In fact, when I was brewing the Australian sparkling ale, I used Maris Otter, what's called light malt extract on the tin. Muntons Maris Otter light malt extract. And I was expecting it to be, you know, like a lagery type colour. You know, when you open those lager tins and it's got a nice sort of light brownish, slightly reddish sort of colour to it. I was expecting that. I was using extra light dry malt extract, and I know what I'm going to get. It's consistent. So I used a little bit of crystal because I wanted just a little bit of depth to the colour. I was expecting like a lager type colour, but I wanted to give it a little bit of depth, a little bit of like a bronziness. And so I used some crystal, just a little bit, 38 Lover Bond, and I thought that will just adjust the colour so it won't be too light. I then opened the tin of the Maris Otter, and what Muntons calls light, I call dark light. It was a lot darker than what I expected it to be. And And in fact, G-Town Brewer, on my last post, when I was going through the recipe, he used Maris Otter in a recipe just a short while ago. He makes some great videos, so check him out. Better videos than mine, actually, because he actually goes through the ingredients and why he's using those ingredients to brew day to actually tasting all in one video. I don't have the patience to do that. But yeah, he was mentioning it was a lot darker than he was expecting when he was using that Maris Otter, even though it says light malt extract on the tin. So there's huge variabilities between different extracts and different makers. The Breeze Pilsner malt, which I used in my lager, for example, that's also called light malt extract. I found that to be spot on, to be honest. I found it to be, yeah, pretty much what I was expecting. You compare that with a Cooper's light malt extract, the liquid, and I find that Cooper's is a little bit darker, and it's like, they've always got this sort of like orange hue to them. I find so anyway. And now at the other end of the spectrum, we've got, of course, the Maris Otter light malt extract, which I don't think's light at all. So I don't know what colour this beer is going to come out like. I think it's going to come out a nice bronzy beer, but a little bit perhaps too dark than what I was expecting. But that's not to worry about, because the old-fashioned traditional sparkling ale covered a huge range of different colours, you know. Not just the Cooper's Light that we see today. So yeah, for me, light malt extract, especially when you're designing your own recipes, it's better to go with the dry version, because you get much more predictable outcomes. It's also easier to measure. My next beer I'm going to be brewing is a Saison, but I want a table Saison, so about 4%, 4.5%. Now that means that I haven't calculated the malt extract bill yet. I'm going to use the maths in this book, so that you can say, okay, for this target gravity I need to use this amount of malt extract. But let's just say it comes in at something like 2 kilograms or 2.2 kilograms. Well, I'm doing partial boil, so I need half of that in the boil. Well, if it's a liquid extract, it's a lot harder to sort of like accurately measure the amount you want. With dry malt extract, it's easy. You just get some scales, a bucket, and that's it, job's done. So it's much easier to use. You get more predictable outcomes. And another point he raises, and I think this is absolutely true, he says use light extracts. Don't use the medium or amber or the dark extracts. He actually says darker extracts are intended only for the simplest types of beers, and I believe are best left to true beginners who are beginning their first 3 or 4 batches. So he recommends that you only use light malt extracts, and you add colour and flavour through the use of specialty malts. And that's what I always do anyway. But like I say, when you include a liquid malt extract and you don't know what that extract is because you've never used it before, this is where all your calculations go out, because in that sparkling ale I'd already coloured what I was thinking was going to be the light malt extract wort with some specialty grains. To be honest, I may have not needed those specialty grains because of the darkness from the Maris Otter light malt extract. But there you go. You don't know, it's in a tin, you can't see it. And that's why liquid, dry malt extract is preferred. And he says, use dry extracts. They allow accurate measurement, ease of handling and convenient storage of partially used containers. So he does say that there are some benefits to liquid, especially if you can get it fresh. And that's the key to using liquid. It's got to be really fresh, but it's hard to determine how fresh it is until you actually open the tin, and then it's too late. So it's just so much easier using dry malt extract. Well, that was a waffle, wasn't it? That was a real ramble. Right, I'm going to enjoy this beer. But that's why I use dry malt extract. It's easy, it's convenient, and you know what you're getting. Even between different brands, different manufacturers, it's all pretty much the same stuff when you use light dry malt extract. You can't be that confident with liquid. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next video. And I might talk about my recipe for the saison. I think I've got it dialed in. I think this is going to be a good saison. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye for now.